Jovan from San Gervasi. This is the Rorschach, Georgia update from the 31st of December, 2025. Quick summary of what's going down in Georgia. Monday the 29th, Ministry of Internal Affairs held a briefing about an infamous murder that took place back in March when a hitman in the middle of Chavchavadze Street in Tbilisi in Vake gunned down businessman Levan Ganchveladze. Authorities say they have fully solved the case and found the chief organizer of the hit was Otar Patschaladze, who briefly held the position of Prosecutor General under the Georgian Dream, or the Kotsevi, in 2013. Apparently, Patschaladze and Ganchveladze had a long-standing business conflict. Last year, the U.S. and Britain sanctioned Patschaladze for spreading Russian influence in Georgia. He is currently a Russian citizen with several businesses and connections to Russian authorities. Bidzina Ivanishvili's son, Bera, is also the godfather to Patschaladze's grandson. His extradition from Russia to Georgia is considered to be highly unlikely to actually happen. Next up, on Thursday the 25th, authorities arrested Bacho Akhalaya, former Minister of Defense under the United National Movement, or the Natsebi. They accused him of organizing the events of the 4th of October when anti-Kotsebi demonstrators led by several members of the Natsebi tried to storm the presidential palace. Over 40 participants were arrested. Bacho Akhalaya was not present during those events. However, authorities say that he was in charge of organizing a coup attempt and was using his mobile device to give orders. Akhalaya is infamous in Georgia. His name is strongly associated with inhuman practices in Georgian prisons during Natsebi's rule. He served 9 years in prison for abuse of power, then emigrated to Poland and returned to Georgia several months ago. Speaking of former ministers of defense, Jansher Burchuladze, who held this position from 2021 to 2024, is currently on trial for abusing power to receive illegal income and for failing to declare a house he bought in Spain for €500,000. On Thursday the 25th, during his trial, Burchuladze said that the charges against him are absurd. The evidence presented by the prosecution is indirect and has been changed several times. He also said that in a normal country, no one, including the prosecutor's side, would take the current evidence against him seriously. Minister of Defense seems like a risky position to occupy in the government. Apart from Akhalaya and Burchuladze, two other former ministers, Gogi Baramia and Irakli Okorashvili, are also in prison. And a third one, David Kezarashvili, alleged funder of Formula, has been avoiding the same fate by living outside the country for a decade in the UK. On another note, on Thursday the 25th, during an interview with the main state propaganda channel, Imedi, the Kotsebi president, Mikhail Kavelashvili, compared the pro-European protesters to flies. He said that, like the fly, that even in a beautiful garden will ignore flowers to look for feces. The radical opposition is unable to see all the good the Kotsebi were able to accomplish in the country. He also said that, unlike them, the Kotsebi supporters are like hard-working bumblebees who are always attracted to flowers. It's a pretty weird interview, worth listening to. On the same day, Russian President Vladimir Putin honored several Kremlin propagandists, including one of Georgian ethnicity, Tina Kandelaki. During the ceremony, Kandelaki shared a story from her last visit to Georgia 5 years ago. She said that back then, the head of the Georgian church, Patriarch Ilya II, specifically asked her to tell Putin that he prays for him. When asked about this story, spokesperson for the church, Andrea Jagmaidze, did not directly answer the question, but said that in 2013, during Ilya II's visit to Moscow, he told Vladimir Putin and the head of the Russian church that the occupation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia is Georgia's bleeding wound, and relations between the countries will only be improved when those lands will be returned to Georgia. Meanwhile, Tuesday the 30th, Zhou Xian, China's ambassador to Georgia, released a statement criticizing the U.S. for selling $11 billion worth of weapons to Taiwan. He called the sale a dangerous move that undermined international order. The ambassador said China expects Georgia and the rest of the world to support its upcoming retaliatory measures against Washington. On Thursday the 25th, Mamuka Mamulashvili, commander of the Georgian National Legion in Ukraine, announced that a park in Kyiv now bears the name of the volunteer unit. The Kyiv City Council and Mayor Vitaly Klitschko approved this honor with a unanimous vote to recognize the Georgians fighting for Ukraine. The park sits on a street named after the iconic Georgian singer Vakhtan Kikabidze, who was a devoted supporter of the Ukrainian people. Mamulashvili says the tribute marks a historic moment in the friendship between the two nations. He believes the park ensures that future generations will remember the Georgian volunteers who stood by Ukraine during its most difficult times. Some unusual news. On Thursday the 25th, authorities arrested a person who took hostage his own 75-year-old grandmother. His demands were even more unusual. He threatened to kill his grandmother if his ex-wife, who currently does not live in Georgia, were not returned to him. Luckily, authorities arrested him and his grandmother was left unharmed. He now faces 14 years in prison. On Wednesday the 31st, public broadcaster terminated the contract of veteran broadcast director Kavelashvili, who has worked at the channel since 1989. The channel says his public statements damaged their reputation and violated internal rules. However, staff advocates say management is punishing Melikidze for exposing political pressure. Earlier this year, Melikidze revealed that managers forced him to repeatedly show Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze during national football matches, even when it violated international broadcasting standards. This firing follows a year of similar dismissals of high-profile journalists and the closing of independent news programs. Supporters view his removal as a move to silence employees who speak out about political interference at the state-funded propaganda station. In related news, on Saturday the 27th, the public broadcaster announced that a suspected large-scale cyber attack on its main servers knocked the station off the air. This technical failure prevented the channel from broadcasting live for 2 days. The broadcaster already asked investigative authorities to launch a formal inquiry into the incident and to try to find those responsible. News analysis of Georgia's economy, published on Wednesday the 24th, reveals how Georgia's growing GDP might not be reflecting the realities of life in the country. One of the examples in this article shows that over 3 billion lari, which is over $1 billion of Georgia's GDP in 2024, came from serving as a tax haven for the IT industry. Because of the very liberal tax regime, many international firms book their profits in Georgia, even if their developers and operations are located elsewhere. This means that while the national economy data looks impressive, a lot of that money never enters the local economy or reaches the people at all. The report warns that Georgia is following in the footsteps of countries like Ireland, with its so-called leprechaun economics, creating a massive gap between official statistics and the financial reality for regular citizens. For the full Substack in English, very much worth subscribing. Link in the show notes. Closing up, last month, Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze announced sweeping degradation of higher education, saying that the new changes will streamline education and make it more compatible with the country's need. In reality, this degradation is yet another way to isolate Georgia and undo all the reforms that were supposed to integrate Georgia with European higher education, and largely did do that. It will have sad long-term effects. You can read an in-depth analysis of this process of legal degradation and what it will mean for the future of Georgian education in an English language article in the show notes. And that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Before we head out, we just want to wish you a fantastic 2026. Thank you for listening, sharing the show, being a part of the Rorschach community. Nachfandis.